Communication in our brains work? The answers are neurotransmitters and the receptors. Hello and welcome to another biochemistry episode. Neurotransmitters are chemical substances and they are capable of binding to receptors, which then provokes a postsynaptic electrical response, and are therefore required for communication in our brain. Usually this communication happens at contact sites turned synapses, without actual physical interaction between two neurons, which is due to the isolation through the synaptic cleft, which you see here. Neurotransmitters can pass this cleft in order to introduce an electrical change. Neurotransmitters can either be excitatory or inhibitory. Excitatory neurotransmitters can open cation channels, which causes sodium to stream into the cell. This sodium stream then causes a depolarization of the postsynaptic membrane compared to the threshold potential. And then this depolarization induces an action potential. There's a separate video about the action potential, which is linked above, where this whole process is explained in detail. Inhibitory neurons affect either chloride or potassium channels, and this makes it harder to depolarize the membrane. Actually, it's the case that most neurotransmitters can do both. Neurotransmitters consist of a variety of different substances, which is required to diversify signaling. Over 100 agents were identified as neurotransmitters. Therefore, it's sensible to divide them into two broad types, which are neuropeptides and small molecule neurotransmitters. An example of a neuropeptide is endorphin, depicted on the left. They contain 3 to 36 amino acids, and they're comparatively large and complex molecules. While small molecule neurotransmitters are smaller and they're composed of fewer complicated structures, like dopamine, which you see here. Biogenic amines, like dopamine, fall into this class as well, and they're so similar in chemical structure that it's possible to treat them as a separate subtype. But it's not all about neurotransmitters. Their receptors are essential. So here we've got two classes, which are ionotropic and metabotropic. Ionotropic receptors are ion channels itself. They can respond to a neurotransmitter by opening. The subunits span the membrane either 3 or 4 times. Here we see one that has 4 subunits, and the receptor itself consists of 4 or 5 subunits. Here we have 5. The metabotropic receptors, however, do activate a cascade of other signals. So ultimately, they activate another ion channel or have also other effects. The vast majority of those metabotropic receptors are G-protein coupled receptors. Those are in fact monomer proteins with 7 transmembrane domains. 4 of those subunits bind the neurotransmitter, while the G-protein binds the loop between the subunits 5 and 6 and the C-terminal region. Ionotropic receptors are capable of generating fast postsynaptic reactions, which last only a few milliseconds. Metabotropic receptors, on the contrary, generate slower postsynaptic but longer-lasting reactions, also as they are coupled to G-proteins. G-proteins use a chemical compound called GTP, which can be hydrolyzed to GDP. But this is the topic of another video. Now let's look at 4 well-known neurotransmitters, which are acetylcholine, glutamate, Gaba, and glycine. Acetylcholine is from the family of the small molecule neurotransmitters and serves functions at skeletal neuromuscular junctions, synapses in the glia, and various sites in general in the central nervous system. Glutamate is essential for a normal functioning brain and an example of an excitatory neurotransmitter. They believe that about 50% of all synapses in the brain release glutamate. Gaba and glycine are neurotransmitters with inhibitory effects both in the brain and in the spinal cord. More than a third of all synapses in the brain release Gaba, while 50% release glycine. So this was now a very quick and very brief overview of neurotransmitters in general. This is a very complex topic and the brain is not nearly full understood today, so there are many more things to explore, but I hope this quick video gave you a good overview of the most important points. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see weekly uploads. See you in the next episode.